Do you believe in the power of synchronicity, in those moments where everything lines up so beautifully it feels like magic? Welcome to The Flow Show, where we explore these flow stories, the miracles, coincidences, and moments of awe that remind us we're connected to something greater. I'm Joanna Turner, and I'm thrilled to share this journey with you. Each week, we'll dive into inspiring interviews, planetary grid work, and tools for spiritual and personal mastery. Whether it's business, life, or alignment, we'll help you tap into your unique flow. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to The Flow Show. I'm Joanna Turner. So, today's episode, I wasn't quite sure what it was going to be about. And then I saw a friend's post yesterday on Facebook, and then somebody reached out to me, and it became very clear what today's episode would be about. So, I'll read you a little snippet, a couple of lines of what my friend posted. I will not obviously name her, but it was public, fully public on Facebook with the little world symbol. So it was, it is public, although I won't tell you her name. She says, and she is this, and this girl is an incredibly strong, powerful woman of integrity, and I very much admire her and her journey and everything she's done, and yet this is where she's at. I honestly have no idea where God is leading me. I don't know how much more I can take on without completely drowning. I share this with deep humility and reverence to this journey. My strength and resilience, the same strength and resilience that I've been praised for my entire life, is built upon layers of trauma, and honestly, I'm fucking tired. To my fellow strong humans, I pray that you find people that will hold you when you can no longer hold yourself. And gosh, that brings tears to my eyes and gives me the chills. And I was blown away, one, by her vulnerability, by the humility she even mentions in the post, and she's obviously had quite a beautiful outpouring of people, and underneath it, quite a lot of people saying, I resonate, I'm with you, I feel you. And I commented underneath, and an old friend reached out, which was lovely. There's no particular reason we haven't been in contact. We used to live half an hour away from each other, and now we don't. She's on the other side of the world. She left where we both lived in Australia. She's left there, lived somewhere else, also moved home to her home country, as have I. And we just got chatting. We're like, oh my gosh, why have we not been in touch for so long? And there was no reason for it. We just both haven't, because we've both not had the easiest time over the last few years. And we just connected. And she as well, this other friend, is not the one that wrote the post, but did identify a bit with it. It was so nice to reconnect with her. And at the end of that, our big long chat, which we should have just jumped on the phone, but I said, look, I've got a million things going on. I can't jump on the phone right now because I know we're going to be on for 2 hours. But instead, we ended up chatting back and forwards on WhatsApp, probably for 4 or 5 hours. But obviously, you can go and do other things while you're doing that. So, but yeah, so nice to reconnect with her. And again, she is an incredibly smart, beautiful, talented girl, all the things. And she has been really struggling for the last few years. And at the end of our conversation, I don't know if I said this, but where's my brain? She felt inspired. She felt renewed. She was like, you've given me my faith and my hope back. And I thought, wow, if I can do that for one girl on WhatsApp, maybe I should share a little bit of this and it would help even more people. So yeah, she's been going through it, and said, she's just had this heck of a few years and is also tired and doesn't know how much more of it she can take. And I felt like that before as well, not that long ago. But I do feel like I'm a wee bit further ahead in things, or actually that was her words. And while nobody is any further ahead, nobody is behind, nobody is whatever, she just said that having spoken to me and knowing that other people have been through a tough time over the last few years, she didn't feel so alone. She's like, I'm not the only one. that's amazing. And I felt really good being able to just share a little bit about what I've been going through with my move home to Scotland as well. And we both just resonated with each other. So hopefully we'll have a little chat, and maybe if you are also a strong, fabulous woman who's had a tough few years, you'll maybe feel a little bit less alone as well. So that sometimes just knowing other people have been going through it as well is important. And these are highly intuitive, highly processed, highly informed women. And I think when I was sort of my last few years, like coming back to Scotland, I was like, what has brought me back here? I'm sure I've shared in the podcast. Like, I did question, why am I back? I felt like I'd been on this huge journey, and then I was sort of back to the beginning again. I was like, how am I at the beginning again? This seems bananas. Have I not sort of moved on in this journey? And I know part of me coming home, and from my friend as well, who's also returned home, has been about deep family healing. And sometimes I can do a whole bunch of it on the other side of the world. I can do a whole bunch of it in ceremony. I can do a whole bunch of that stuff. But sometimes you have to come back and do it in person. And so I think partly both of us have been on that journey, working through stuff in person back home. So, we had other things we could relate to. Both of our parents are aging. She's lost some people recently. She lost a pet. She's had health issues, and I could resonate with all of that. So yeah, it's a lot for people. And yeah, we need to be checking on our strong friends that we think have it all together, because quite often they don't. And sometimes I can be really good, like when things aren't great, I can mask like the best of them. You wouldn't have a clue. And I didn't even honestly know probably what I was actually going through, because I was so used to masking and pretending everything was okay. And I think as women, mostly women, not all, I know we've got a mixed audience here, but we get so good at putting everybody else first, pretending everything's fine, not speaking up, not speaking our truth, that we can sometimes get lost. We can lose ourselves in it all and be a bit in denial about what's happening. And while I hadn't felt like I wasn't ever missing Australia, I felt when I left, I was like, right, that chapter is done. But what I realized chatting to somebody else the other day was, perhaps while that chapter felt closed, I maybe hadn't fully moved on forward into the next. I've been in this kind of like holding place for a little while, like kind of like still not quite settled, not quite sure what I'm doing next, that kind of space and energy. I feel like I'm out of that now, thank goodness. And hopefully my chat with my friend yesterday will shift her out of it. So obviously we had a big chat about that and what we're doing and what the dreams are, and all that kind of good stuff. And this, is such a transformational time. And the comment I made under my friend's post, which prompted this other friend to reach out to me after years, since we both left Australia, was I wrote, hopefully this huge change in astrology in March will bring in a whole new chapter, sending love. And she was like, okay, tell me, what is the thing? And I feel like over the years, I'm sure I've mentioned this even in the Shedding Skins episode, was people keep telling you that things are changing and this is the biggest astrology and the biggest whatever. But really, this does feel like a massive turning point. And I'm not an astrologer, but I do obviously follow them. And this guy was saying that he has looked a couple of thousand years back in history and hundreds of years forward, and March is the most transformative month that he has found ever in that period of time. So I think it's a case of holding on to your hats. I feel like in the last, month, my entire life is shifting and changing. Like everything is sort of upside down. Like like absolutely everything is new, and what was not working is now working. Like just a total 180 in almost all areas of my life. And that is good, but it's a lot of change to deal with. And I'm very happy, very excited. But to allow that level of change into your life takes work, and it takes an effort to allow it to come in with some love, ease, and grace, and to be able to do it in flow. So we'll talk a little bit today about change. And she also specifically asked me what I have done to create all the change that is going on in my life. I'll be able to share bits of it with you guys, but yeah, everything is like totally upside down. Like I'm even joining a new gym. There's a new guy on the go, new car, big new corporate client. Like there is so much happening that it's like head spinning. So she asked like, how did you basically get out of this place? And the other feeling she'd had was she'd been feeling really isolated. And when I first got back to the UK, I had also been feeling like that. I didn't actually feel like I'd be here for long. I think that was part of this denial piece I was in. I was like, oh, I'll just be here for like, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, and then I'm out of here. And this is several years later, I'm still here. But because I had that, I'm going to leave soon attitude, I'm only back briefly to like reconnect with my family, see my parents. I didn't put any real effort into reconnecting with people beyond my very close family, and a couple of very good friends. But there were even very good friends that I have not reconnected with, which is terrible, but I just never got around to it, because I was like, I'm leaving again. And I kept my circle and my little group very small. And it wasn't a conscious choice. It was obviously a choice, but it wasn't necessarily a conscious choice. It just is what happened. And this friend as well was feeling very isolated, very alone, and disconnected from community. The beautiful thing about Australia, while it's the other side of the world and far away from family, there is a very community focused, especially where we lived in the Northern Rivers. She was Byron Bay and I was in just half an hour up the coast. There was a very strong spiritual community. There was a very strong entrepreneurial community, and there was a lot going on, and a big network of people to tap into, and sort of everyone in that big spiritual entrepreneurial community knew each other, and we're all sort of connected in different ways. So that was really amazing, and I loved that aspect of where I lived. But there were also negative. It did feel a bit cliquey at times, and there were different bits going on. But for the most part, it was a really inspiring place to live for all of those reasons. A very healing place. I did a lot of healing. I sort of was half an hour down the road from a beautiful shaman lady, and I had other beautiful healers and teachers that lived very close by, and I really loved that aspect of it, and everybody felt very forward, very ahead of the game kind of idea in terms of their thinking and all that kind of stuff. Back in Scotland, it feels like almost the polar opposite. It's a very different way of thinking. For the first few years, I had zero spiritual community, zero entrepreneurial community. I just was totally, there was just none of that. And so I'd lost this huge network, this huge community. My other friends around that scattered all over the world who are also spiritual and entrepreneurial, they're in other parts of the world, and, WhatsApp's great, the odd Zoom call, whatever. But yeah, I was feeling quite disconnected as well. But about a year ago, I think, and so she asked, what did you do? And I was like, well, about a year ago, I got introduced to a lovely spiritual community locally. Somebody I got connected with on Facebook reached out and said, hey, there's a girl who lives near you. She's running these women's circles. It might be of interest. And it felt really good to go along and meet her. And we went for we walked and talked for about 3 or 4 hours, and then I went to some of her circles, and that just started opening the doorway to community, a beautiful spiritual community that she's built up locally, and just connecting with people. It's all women, but just reconnecting with a community and a network who are on a similar wavelength. It's not the same as it was in Australia, of course. It's different, but it is lovely to be able to tap into a community and connect with people who are, and a lot of them, I think I've mentioned this, are on this similar sort of planetary grid work adventure, and we're all piecing the puzzle together. And it's been a really beautiful connection for me with these women locally. So so there's that. That was probably step one, was being open to, and I'd set the intention as well before somebody said, hey, you should go meet this girl. I'd set the intention that I wanted community here. And especially with what is happening in the world, all this change that we'll talk about, community is so important. It is so, so important. We don't know what's coming. We'll talk a bit more about that. But the one thing that there is so much value in is community and friendships, and knowing people locally, I believe, is going to be more and more important going forward in the future. So there's that. I have a lovely dog walking community, but I wouldn't say they are particularly spiritual, or most of them are not particularly entrepreneurial. Most of them are retired, but they are lovely, and I chat away to folk in the park all the time. So that's always been nice, but it rarely extends beyond a walk in the park or whatever. So anyway, that was my first step, was starting to get a community, so I didn't feel so isolated. I didn't feel so alone. That was step one for me. And then I wrote this little list out for her, and the next part was probably realizing that if nothing changed, nothing changed. And I was the one that could start instigating that change for myself and make something happen. And it really did feel, when I was in it, that I didn't know if it would ever change. Like, it felt like I was so deep in it that I didn't know if it would ever change. And I was like, this is actually quite frightening. I'm so stuck in a sort of loop or a pattern. And what my friend was saying was, she had felt she was losing her faith because she'd had sort of disappointment after disappointment, what she felt was a failure after failure. And she said that they'd stacked on top of each other so much. And because she was alone, it was really hard to pull herself out from thinking that she was a failure or things just didn't work, because she wasn't so connected to an inspiring community that could talk some sense into her, help her, give her some reflection or whatever. She was feeling it was just stacking, and she felt like she couldn't get out of it. And I also resonated with that. But that's when you have to start really taking, matters into your own hands and being like, okay, what can I change? What do I have the power to change? And along with that, I also said that probably the real first step was asking God for help and guidance. And we were just laughing, because I think I'd put it lower on the list, and I was like, actually, pop that up to the top of the list. That's probably where I started, because I was like, oh, I don't know how to get out of this. And so I just asked for guidance. I needed some impetus to take the first step. And I really believe that if we ask the questions, we get the answers. If we ask for help, we get the help. I really believe that. And so that's, I think, probably where I started, when I felt like I didn't know how to shift out of it. I was kind of stuck. And that was probably the first step. So, and part of my stuckness was feeling like I was getting pulled into being a carer for my parents, and feeling that heavy responsibility, and that was part of my stuckness, was feeling this just like incredible weight of that on my shoulders. Just huge numbers of hospital runs, taking them to the doctors, taking them to picking up things from the pharmacy, trying to self-identify stuff. I mean, it was just been hectic. And then somebody would fall over, and then somebody would have another operation, and then there'd be another fall, and then there's another thing. And that has all been really quite heavy for me and quite challenging to navigate. Yeah, so there's that too. Anyway, so that was my first step, asking for help, asking God for help and guidance, and then seeing what shifted and changed once I'd done that. So really, as cliched as it sounds, it kind of boiled down to wanting change, asking for help, and really that maybe it was the decision that came before asking for help. It's so often, I've heard different teachers and people always say it comes to this decision and deciding that what is going on can't continue, like you're unavailable for it continuing, and then asking for help. And once you've made that decision, then the other pieces of the puzzle start to fall into place. And I think that's like a key part of the decision-making process. And then once I started sort of manifesting all these shifts and changes, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, look at this, obviously my vibration lifted, because I was suddenly like, oh my goodness, like it's actually working. Things are changing, things are shifting, this is exciting, I've got a lot more going on, like everything was just moving and changing. And but to allow that has been interesting. Like I can feel like sort of anxiety and things coming up through my body when everything is changing. I was like, nothing is going to be the same. Not even my gym is the same. So it's this like I've had to really, really repeat to myself at moments, like, I am safe. I am safe. It's safe to change. It's safe to change. It's okay. And I'm sure I read out this little note that I'd heard from somewhere about it. You can be uncomfortable but safe at the same time. And this uncomfortableness with all the change, although I want the change, it's still a lot to process all in one go. And so I've definitely been in that mantra. And I've also been saying things like, show me how good it can get. Show me how good it can get. I'm available for this change to come with love, ease, and grace. I allow all this change to come easily and effortlessly. I'm allowing this in my life. I give myself full permission to change everything and be healthy and happy and safe, and allow it to come. Like, I have just been on these mantras and really just allowing the change, because I know things, when all this kind of stuff is happening, things can blow up, and you just don't want that to happen. You can get funny things start going on in your body, and like you can get sick. And I was like, no, this is not what's happening. We are just we're navigating this with ease and grace. And we've got this, obviously, this astrological change happening in March. So I was just sort of laughing when I heard about what a big month it was. I was like, you're telling me it's going to be a big month? Everything is changing, and it's good. It's good. And so hopefully, if you have been feeling stuck in some sort of pattern or cycle, or if things haven't been working in your business, or it's just felt really stale. That was another thing one of my friends was saying about how she just was like, oh, the coaching industry just feels kind of yucky at the moment. She wasn't feeling as inspired to share. And when she had all these other things and health issues going on, she's like not feeling as inspired to share in her business. And I totally related to all that. So yeah, it was just this kind of yuckiness. Anyway, so what with all this change happening, I said, what if, like, things are going to be so different? And then she wrote, now this is a direct quote from her, It ain't going anywhere good for people who need certainty and stability, right? So all this change, if you are trying to cling to the past, it doesn't work out well. We've talked about this before. So if you need to know exactly what's happening, everything working exactly like it used to, the structures, all the things, we're even, obvious big changes, obviously, in the US with the government and all this kind of stuff. Nothing is the same. These people who had like stable federal jobs for the last, 20, 30 years are suddenly finding themselves without work overnight and things like that. So there are just massive changes happening. And yeah, if you are a type of person who can't handle change, then it's going to be difficult. So what my friend then said was, I desire it, like she desires stability, but I don't need it. And I just thought that is so interesting. And some of these people who have been through stuff, when these changes come, we're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, that we've been through more than that. Like, it's not going to be this such a shock to us and our nerve systems, because we have navigated a lot of change. And also, it's when you need that amount of certainty and stability, there's a lack of faith in the something bigger, being an ultimate positive higher thing and ultimately supporting us. And while my friend had felt like her faith was a little shaky, she wasn't kind of quite seeing what was happening. Like after our conversation, she felt a little bit more restored and hopeful, and feeling like possibilities were available for her. And I think that is such a huge element for the next few months, maybe the rest of the year, is being able to navigate that change with the faith that whatever is happening is for your highest and best, and that you are safe in the process. And ultimately, we know, again, another cliche, the only certainty is uncertainty, and to get comfortable navigating that is really important. Okay, so other things that I had told her that I was doing a lot of: one, enemas, detoxing as hard as I possibly can. I've been doing various different protocols, just trying to clean and clear my liver, my gallbladder, my system, my internal systems. Just doing, because I know that we live the other part of when you do feel so uncertain. How can you take back any kind of control? One is to be as healthy as possible, to detox as much as possible. At this stage, we really don't know we don't know what we're consuming, what's in the water. Of course, I filter my water. I try and be as careful with my food, but it's some of this stuff is sort of beyond us, right? We're not quite sure what they're spraying in the air. I know they're spraying something, and so it's this like constant. So I'm constantly been detoxing. She then sent me this funny meme, and it was like this little dog like trying to balance on a bucket or something, and it was shaking like crazy, and this thing was trying to cling on. She's like, that's how I felt like, or something. And I was like, funny you should mention that. I have been doing a lot of a vibration plate. That's been my one of my morning routines, is getting on this vibration plate and like shaking myself. It's so good for getting your lymph moving. It's so good for getting the if your lymph's moving, then that is your body's system it's basically your garbage removal system, and it doesn't move on its own. We need to move it for it to work. And so a lot of people who get issues, inflammation, retaining a lot of water, lymph node issues, that kind of thing, their lymph just isn't moving and flushing as much as it could do. And so, yeah, I've been on this vibration plate, and also shaking is really good for shifting any kind of trauma out of your body, helps heal your nervous system. And so I've been doing a lot of that in this allowing of the complete change in my life. So she was like, oh, that makes so much sense. I can't believe you've been doing that. And I was like, yeah, it's like been a big thing for me the last the last maybe month or two. So been doing a lot of intentionally shaking up my system. And I don't know, might not be for everybody, but it's something I can really feel is helpful for me. I do it first thing in the morning just to get my whole body and my system moving, and really like it. So might be something you could look into. Okay, so I'm like trying to think if was there anything else major. Oh, I also was like, we talked a lot about how the media and all this kind of stuff can really bring you down, and you are what you consume, in more ways than one. And so I said I'd had to quite intentionally take a big step back from consuming as much of the alternative media stuff that I had been. And that was a while ago. I haven't been on Telegram for, I don't know, maybe a year. I've still got it on my phone, but like I don't use it actively. And I used to like watch every single video that was put on some of these channels and never miss a thing, like trying to stay informed. And now I'm like, oh, everyone's bad. Let's just move on and, you know, sort myself out, focus on what I can change and what I can do and everything. So we talked about that, and I said I've been watching a lot more comedy, like again, just to just lift my mood and my vibration. And yeah, if anything else comes to me, I will let you know. But I think they were the kind of main things that I felt like I had been focusing on. Obviously, sitting in meditation, allowing myself to drop in. Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's this like full circle kind of thing. Allowing the change is not always easy, but we can make it easier by not trying to cling on to the past. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this astrology. Again, not an astrologer, but this is the situation. Basically, so Venus goes retrograde in Aries on the 1st of March. So it is the planet of love and values and things like that. So it might be relationship stuff might be coming up, changing how you value yourself, what you expect, what you tolerate, all that kind of stuff. So there's that going on. We've got a huge big full moon in Virgo on the 14th of March. Again, challenging relationships, work, self-care, all that kind of stuff. There is a Mercury retrograde to throw into the mix. Mercury is the planet of communication, and when things are retrograde, it means they're going backwards, and quite often you can get like tech issues, misunderstandings, time changes. Well, we do have the clocks changing in Mercury retrograde. In the UK, it's the 30th of or 31st of March, I believe. So, you know, you've got all of that stuff going on as well. My favourite way to deal with Mercury retrograde is to assume that no plan will remain exactly the same during that time. And I just I do that generally, but I remind myself extra. I'm like almost like suspicious if a plan has not been changed at least once in some way. The time has changed, the date changed, the location has changed, somebody missed the call, didn't see my message, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of almost assume that that's going to happen. If we've had one date or time change, I'm like, okay, good, then it's possible that this meeting or coffee or whatever it is will actually happen because it's already changed once. So yeah, it's definitely easier to navigate if you go with that kind of attitude, like allowing things that, you know, if things will break or glitches or whatever, we just allow that to happen, and don't get too caught up with it when it does happen. For some people, it's not as bad. I was actually born during a Mercury retrograde, so I think it means it's usually a bit more favourable for me, but I still get all the communication and tech things going on. There is a huge solar eclipse on the 29th of March in Aries. They're calling it like a cosmic reset button. So again, lots of new beginnings and opportunities and things happening then. Then Neptune enters Aries on March 30th. Planet of dreams and spirituality, and It hasn't been in Aries since 1861. So that is a new 13-year cycle. So there is just a lot going on, and things might change, and that's going to be okay. So there's that. And then I don't know if I missed anything. Anyway, you get the picture, right? Lots of things are changing, and a lot of these things have not changed for a long time, and they also haven't all changed in a long time at once. So hold on to your hats. I believe it's more potent for some people, some signs than others. Aries, obviously everything seems to be in Aries, so they're going to be quite affected. Leo, I'm a Leo moon, fun times. Sagittarius and I think Taurus could be kind of up for more of the hit than others, but I think just be prepared would be the top thing to do, and allow it to take you on the journey. Oh, the other thing I've actually started on that note, I've started taking NMN. I'm sure you've seen it online, so I've started taking that as well, and I've been taking another supplement that's a mature hops extract. I'm still on that, and it's going pretty well. But yeah, sometimes when you ask for the change, even the right people show up, the right conversations show up, the right supplements show up, the right Facebook ads show up, the right podcast shows up, the right whatever shows up. So trust that if you make the decision for a change or asking for help or whatever that is, that the right things will show up when you need them, and change is possible. I think there's nothing worse than losing hope and feeling like nothing can change or it's not possible, but it really is when you decide that it is. But also not beating yourself up for not doing it sooner. I don't think whenever everything shifted for me, I just couldn't have done it any sooner, and that's fine. And that's okay. And I just had to accept that when I was in it, I was in it, and that was, and it's not bad and it's not wrong, and it's, certain circumstances feel like they're out of your control, even though you are writing your own script and making these decisions. Anyway, sending you all so much love, whatever you happen to have been going through. If you can relate to any of the things that my friend and I were talking about or going through, and like that first girl said, check on your strong friends. A lot of us are so good at pretending and masking and hiding the fact that there's anything going on, even sometimes from ourselves. Maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I would have probably said there was something going on, but I didn't even know it was going on. I was like completely oblivious. I just thought it was normal, or I would cover it up with my back then it was a bit of an exercise addiction. It was like, and that kind of thing was keeping myself so busy that I couldn't see that there was something that needed to shift. Like I was just, I had so many things going on, that I couldn't see the wood for the trees. So it could be that the thing that you're using to mask or to hide things, maybe that changes, maybe that shifts, and then everything else bubbles up to the surface. Who knows? But yeah, when I had my back injury and I couldn't exercise like crazy, and suddenly my time and space opened up, then I could really see that something else needed to change. And yeah, sometimes we don't even admit it to ourselves. Anyways, I will leave it there, I think. I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling now, but I just want to send you all so much love in this time of transition. I do remember actually one other thing that has come up in the last few days. Chat from different intuitives, psychics, that kind of thing. And it's been around for a while, this concept of a possible 3 days of darkness. Some people think it's going to be 10 days. It is possible. It could be March. It could be another time. I don't know. That the global telecommunications or electricity goes down, and we are so reliant as a culture on it that a lot of people would freak out and wouldn't manage very well if that happened. There's so many rumblings about it. Will it happen? I don't know. Could it happen? Absolutely. I don't know if it would be accidental, if it would be a hack, if it would be some sort of intentional plug pull to bring in change or something. I just don't know what that is going to look like. But it is possible. It's highly possible. So what my friends and I were discussing on another chat, this is different people, was having a little bit of preparedness going on for that possibility as well. And once you have that in place, it's not about living in fear. It's not about becoming a massive prepper or anything like that. But if you have a few bits in place that you would be okay for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month, if they did pull the plug, because a lot of people wouldn't be. So if it wouldn't be crazy idea to get some supplies in, whether that's water purification tablets, because when they turn the electricity off, the water pumps stop, you can't flush your toilet, that kind of thing. If you've ever been through a natural disaster, a hurricane or anything like that, and the electricity goes out, you get like maybe one last flush of the toilet if you're lucky, and the water runs out your taps until it's done, but then it stops. So you've got to just have an awareness of what that could look like. So I have some water on hand, the water purification stuff. I have a little gas stove. I have a little wind-up solar-powered radio that I can also charge my phone on. Not that there might be a signal, but at least if I have a radio, then we've got something. So, and some dried food and some bits and pieces, some salt, things like that. So it's not a fear thing. It's just like I have it, and if I ever need it, then that's good. Well, not good, but hopefully I'll never need to use it. But if you have the ability to get a few bits in place, it might not be as crazy as it sounds, but don't live in fear about it. Just be like, right, I have a few bits, I'll last, I'll be fine, and leave it at that. So yeah, that actually, I'd forgotten that I wanted to mention that. But yeah, I think that it's important. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully nothing comes of it. Hopefully, I'll just end up chucking out the whatever dry food or using it up at some point and replacing it. I don't want to be wasteful, but having a couple of jars of things or cans or whatever you feel is appropriate could just be quite handy. But yeah, you never know. You never know what is coming. It all seems to be getting so much crazier, whether it's earthquakes, flooding, fires, all that kind of stuff. Although if something like that happens, it's not like you can take all the stuff you had planned with you, can you? But anyway, have that up your sleeve as an awareness. Yeah, if you've got any great suggestions, pop them in the comments below, and share them with other people. Not fear-mongering, just, have a few bits and things in place. Maybe having a little bit of cash on hand would be useful, that kind of thing. Okay, my loves, I'm going to go. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And if you share this, I would love that. If you pop a little 5-star review on Spotify or like us on YouTube, I would massively, massively appreciate that. It all helps. And I will speak to you soon on the next episode. Take care.